Hey folks, welcome to another episode of the 10 Laws with East Forest podcast. I'm East Forest. I'm coming to you today from Boise, Idaho. Just got here, coming back from the East Forest retreat, which I know I've been talking about a lot, but we finally were able to complete it. And boy, was it a good one. Oh my gosh. I mean, I always enjoy these things, but I gotta say, this is probably one of the best ones yet. We sold it out, which was 33 people, including myself and Radha, who were leading it. It was just such a beautiful group of souls. I'm always amazed about how you throw some net like that out into the public sphere and kind of essentially say, hey, sign up if you're feeling this, if you're feeling the call. And then watching that call bring people in and seeing the perfection of the group. We had a group from Massachusetts. We had folks from Florida, California, Seattle, and other parts of the country. And man, it's just so cool to watch people roll in to the Boulder, Utah, to the Grand Staircase National Monument area, coming from these different directions, and already seeing their minds blown a little bit by the drive in, and then getting to watch their hearts and minds crack right open and start to merge as the days progress in the retreat, as we get out on the land, as we do the yoga, as we do the movement, as we have these profound discussions between ourselves, and, these hikes and of course the music. We got to do an East Forest ceremony concert. I gave folks a little private studio tour, give them a look into the upcoming work that I'm doing, and it's just awesome, man. And we really lucked out on the weather too. It was absolutely perfect with the sun. So there were a lot of great pictures I was seeing coming in on social media. I think it's tagged like either East Forest or East Forest Retreat or East Forest Retreat 2018. If you want to kind of peep that out, I'm sure there's some stuff poking around on the East Forest Instagram and Facebook and all that jazz. So thank you to everyone who came out. And if you want to join us, the next retreat style thing coming up is at the Esalen Institute in Big Sur, California. And that's November 16th through 18th, which is the weekend before Thanksgiving. Usually a good time to drop out early, make it a whole week off. But we'll be there for a few days, Friday to Sunday. And Esalen, for those who don't know, is an incredible retreat center with deep, deep roots in the counterculture. I mean, I don't even know how long they've been around. I'm going to say 50 plus years. And it's a very remote spot on the California coast. It just hugs the coastline there. Folks like Terrence McKenna and Alan Watts. I mean, all sorts of people have been there over the years. So it's seeped in history, seeped in freedom of thought. And the thing that blew me the most away about Esalen was its just extreme beauty. It's just this like strip of well manicured, beautiful land on the cliffs of the ocean. So you're always looking at the huge expanse of the Pacific. And it's a land that three different waters combine at that one spot. So it's a very sacred land for the indigenous people that were there before us. There's a stream waterfall that comes in. There's the ocean. And then there's the hot springs, which are coming right out of the cliff. And they've built this amazing hot tub building with all these different pools coming right out of the cliff, hugging the cliff over the ocean. It is hands down the most amazing place to soak in hot springs that I've ever been. So you'll obviously be able to do that, soak in the water. You'll be able to just relax and enjoy the grounds. They have little meditation buildings and all sorts of fun things, eat the great food. And then we'll be doing work during the workshop together, which will involve exploring how music can be a tool to help us navigate our modern lives, help us dive into ourselves. And we'll do that through many different modalities, including things like East Forest ceremony concerts and exploring the music with different forms of music. And movement, and also co-creative music. So we're still putting together all of our brainstorming and ideas on what we can do there. But I trust again that those who feel the call will come, and it's going to be yet again a perfect group and another super transformative weekend. But if you are on the road and you're able to come see me at other events, please do, because I'm going to be in Asheville. This is a new event coming up. Heading out October 26th. We will be in Asheville doing an East Forest ceremony. So check out eastforest.org. Hit the little tour tab and you'll see all about that event. I've been asked to play there by folks in the community over the years, but it's not really like a place that, what's the word? It's not really on my beaten path of touring. And so I've just never been able to make it happen. So I'm super, super excited. I hear it's a super cool place with really rad people to be coming to Asheville on October 26th. If you're not there and you do know people there, I'd really appreciate it if you tell your friends about it. And then I'll be in Colorado doing 3 dates. October 8th in Durango, October 10th in Denver, and Grand Junction on the 11th. So those are all East Forest ceremony concerts too. I'm really loving honing in on this process of what that whole event is. I cannot wait to get to Colorado, my Utah neighbor. So again, eastforest.org/tour, and hopefully I'll see you there. Thank you for, who is this? Max Bug, who wrote a review on the iTunes store. We always appreciate the 5-star reviews. That helps other people think about clicking on this and saying, yeah, I'll give that a try. And if you can write a few sentences, even better. Max Bug says, been a big fan of Trevor and his music for a few years now. Love his podcast so much. He has the most interesting guests who share the most amazing information and perspectives. It's a podcast I have to listen to every single week. Well, that's just super sweet, Max Bug. You might have noticed this hasn't been every week. Lately, it's been every other week. And that's been somewhat intentional because every week's a lot, man. And I've been busy. I just also thought maybe it had a little time for you guys to digest things. And I've been trying to get more guests in the queue. So it's not that it will always just be every other week. If I have some additional material like some live cuts or meditations, I'll toss them in so we can get this weekly from time to time. But I guarantee we'll get things out at least bi-monthly. And I'm always looking for guests and conversations that we all find valuable. Otherwise, I'm really enjoying this shift of season and looking forward to, I feel like summer, I don't know about you, but summer feels like it's now wrapped and we're transitioning through this equinox into the fall. And I feel it. I feel it in the air. I feel it in the events that have passed and the events that are coming forward. And change is in the air. And I was thinking about this. I was thinking about how change, we often, I don't know about you, but I sometimes have a connotation with change as a word. Just like how it hits me in my gut. And it isn't, right? Because there's plenty of things that change that are actually quite good. And it's important to remember that. For instance, I feel good that I'm switching out of summer. And I can think about the things that I'm grateful for. Like leaving some of the intense heat behind for a while. Or some of those wildfires and the smoke, that was intense in certain places. And there was a level of busyness that I enjoyed, but I'm actually kind of looking forward to shifting into a few different speeds and energies and places as we move into the fall. And so it's a way of recognizing that change that is upon us is actually quite welcome and lovely. And that change that is the essence and the engine of life, of living, is something that we can welcome. Because everything changes, everything decays in a sense, everything grows, and in that growth is moving towards a form of decay, a form of transmutation. And that's what it means to be incarnate. That's what it means to be walking our walk on this planet. And as I feel the air change and the smells change and the fires burning in people's stoves and the harvest of our foods and all the wonderful foods that we get with the fall and the winter, and we dig out that jacket and put our shoes back on and put the flip-flops away. Instead of mourning that, I'm welcoming it with open arms and all that it means. Because as we move into the future, it's important to remember that we have infinite possibility. And in that infinite possibility is, just as it sounds, all possibility. And that can be whatever you want it to be, in a sense. I mean, keep your mind open. It's important for me to remember that. It's like it could be anything. And I want to step into this new season with an anticipation of welcoming the wheel of change. So the conversation I want to share with you today is one we recorded at the East Forest Fall Retreat in Boulder, Utah. We were able to pull out the podcasting equipment and do a little bit of a group conversation, some Q&A, moderated by Radha. So thank you for that. And we just got back. I think it was on our first day of hikes. So people were a little glassed over in their body bliss of being out in the sun in the high desert and the fall colors. And I think people were a little glazed over and just kind of listening. But we did get some good questions in there. And I always enjoyed the conversation. And it's a little bit of a glimpse into some of the conversations we were having all weekend and some of the awesome people that were able to be there. So I hope you enjoy this little look into the East Forest Retreat. I hope to see you at one, maybe at Esalen in mid-November. As always, just check out eastforest.org and you can see all the different events and all the different things going on, how we're trying to just pull this tribe together and sing one another awake. So here it is, a little conversation at the East Forest Retreat in Boulder, Utah.
We're at the Boulder Mountain Guest Ranch in Boulder, Utah, doing our fall retreats, our third fall retreat together, East Forest plus Marissa Wepner. And we're here with some of our guests, and we thought it'd be fun to have a little bit of a Q&A session, opening it up to ask East Forest some questions.
Or whatever.
Or talk about whatever. You guys can ask me questions as well. So maybe let's start out with East Forest. Why are we here?
Why are we at this retreat, or why are we in Boulder, Utah?
Why are we doing a retreat in Boulder, Utah at the Boulder Mountain Guest Ranch?
Because it's important to get face time. It's important to gather as a group, especially a group that you don't know everybody, and come into a sense of community. And there's something about that that's old, yet new, but there's something ancient about gathering together and witnessing one another and recognizing, sometimes when I lived in New York City, you walk around and there's millions of people, but nobody looks you in the eye, and I would start to feel like a ghost. And it's really important just to have that witness of ourselves and witness of others. So coming into these contexts where we can put our daily habits aside and our routines and get in touch with that voice inside ourselves is something that's really important, especially these days, and something that's very powerful. So for me, it's about gathering and recharging, revitalizing, and sort of like defragging the spiritual computer. What's it for you? What's it for anybody else? Why are they here?
Yeah. Why? Did anyone offer why you've come to this retreat? Or you've come again? Or you're here? Perhaps
we went through that a little bit, but just the essence of like, what's the value for you of like coming all the way out somewhere and taking the time and doing what we do?
I want to hear from Jack. Jack's one of the few people on the trip that didn't come with someone. And so Trevor and I, when we first came, we came alone. I came by myself.
Yeah, 2008. So this place had a retreat that used to be through Reality Sandwich, is what you're referring to.
Yeah, I came
alone, and you came to one alone in 2009 and 10.
In 2009 and 10, I came out by myself just because I felt the call and wanted to be here and wanted to be in community and meet like-minded people and have interesting conversations and drop into nature here. And it has called me back many times ever since, and I love it. And that's one reason why we've created this retreat, is to offer that space for others to enjoy. And now you all are here. So, Jack, you tell us how you got here.
Well, oddly enough, I got here through an internet search, and I totally didn't expect that one evening I would be watching a small video of a guy talking about this gathering and saying, if you feel the call, you'll know it, and you'll come. And I felt like that was a bold statement, and a bold statement is due a bold reply. And I felt like that's how I wanted to answer. And I totally concur that nature is the first and greatest container for inner work. Mm-hmm. So I totally appreciate the location of this gathering and your sensitivity to that.
How was your time today?
Jack, come up here. Trust me, it'll be better. Use my mic. Just come up first, just for like a minute.
If you could see him right now, he's looking really shy.
Come on. They're going to hear you either way. So it's like, might as well hear your full glory.
No, well, we went on this amazing walk through an aspen forest at the top of the Grand Escalante. So we were sort of in one of the upper stair steps of this amazing geological site in southeast Utah. And I was telling someone just seconds before you started your podcast that as magnificent as the gold is, the sound of the wind in the aspen leaves is something that's just tremendous and you can't replicate anywhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was telling Matt Cochran, who was leading the hike, who's I think episode 2 or 3 on this
Dreams
series. Yeah. So he was leading the hike, and I was mentioning to him that sound of the leaves, wind through the leaves, is one of those special sounds that can catapult us into that unity consciousness and can, really send us into that soul space really quickly. And it's also something that's really difficult to record, I was mentioning, because it the detail of it is better in our own ear than most microphones. It sounds a bit like white noise when you record it. I've recorded it dozens and dozens of times in different trees. And obviously the wind itself is challenging. You don't want that to hit the microphone. So you're trying to record something that you're in, but you want to sort of keep the recorder out of the environment of what you're in. But I was totally vibing on that too. There's something really special about aspen leaves in particular in the fall when they have that sort of slight brittleness to them. Mm-hmm. It's a special sound. I love that stuff.
Yeah, it was a gorgeous hike today and so special this time of year with the fall leaf change of color. Some of you guys have maybe traveled quite far to spend some time with East Forest, and here you are.
I thought it was awesome that so many of you know each other from retreats or just travels, and that we got to come from Massachusetts and basically just hang out with you guys. It's been such an honor to just be here.
Yeah, it's great hang time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's pretty chill.
Yeah.
During this retreat, which is built into the schedule intentionally. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really day one, sort of. It always takes a good 24 hours.
Jude, yeah.
Today, I think when we went on this hike, the thing that summed it up for me and for the whole retreat, maybe why I'm here, is we followed a path all the way up into the woods and saw all the aspens, and then on the way back we went off the normal path and kind of explored and where most people didn't trod. And Matt, the guy that was guiding us, says, it's very important to step off the path, to get off the normal path and explore new areas that you're maybe uncomfortable with or you haven't seen before. And I started thinking about that more and more, and it really is true. Maybe that's why I came here, because it's kind of like stepping off the path. I knew some things about it, but come into a new realm, explore new things, and evolve.
It's almost like stepping onto the path, right? In a way.
Mm-hmm.
That was his quote, was step off the path to find the path.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's sort of like finding your path again by stepping off our hypnotized path. And I don't mean that in a pejorative way. I just mean we get hypnotized by our routines. Mm-hmm. And it's a way of thinking about how change itself and is a powerful way to shock us into remembering all the things that are important to us. We were talking about change the other day. I think it was about the seasons was the analogy, right?
Well, we just went through a big seasonal shift with the equinox.
Right,
Yeah.
but we were talking about how, so we're experiencing this change into this new season, and but that's actually a change maybe we probably welcome. And because we could think about all the reasons why. It was really hot, there were forests were on fire. There's different reasons why, I'm really welcoming this change into the autumn. And it's a good reminder that sometimes, I know for me at least, I think about change in general as something that's actually scary, that I almost have to brace myself for as like a notion. But it's like to remember, it's like actually change, not only is it obviously inevitable for everything, but in a lot of ways it can bring a lot of gifts. And that's another way of doing that is by just changing our habits and our environments, sort of like coming to a space like this is another great way to just sort of reveal the things inside yourself that are already important to you and reconnect to those and maybe pick up a few new things from other people's journeys. And
Yeah, and often when you come on a retreat like this, I mean, in all of our lives, we go through times when we're questioning, like, am I in the right relationship? Do I have the right job? Am I living in the right place? Am I doing the right thing? And the feeling of change is there, but we're not quite sure how to fully step into it, but we can feel the big question. And then if we're lucky enough and we're listening to our inner wisdom in a sensitive way, we might choose to go on a retreat like this so we can help ourselves get clear and find clarity. And I know when I first came here almost 10 years ago, I was in one of those places, and the intentions and the conscious thought and the seeds that I planted while I was here and subsequently every time I've come back, all of those have bloomed in such magnificent ways that I could never have even thought of in my mind, but trusted just to know enough that something was shifting within me and allowing that shift to take place, and kind of then at the same time giving it up, like the direction that it was going to take, but knowing how I wanted to feel on the other side of things. And for me, feeling sense matters a lot.
Yeah, you've often focused on like the feeling that you want to be embodying or that you want to result, as opposed to the method of how it is achieved.
Yes.
I think that's an interesting way to think about what it is you're trying to walk into in your life, is actually like the feeling state that you would be desiring, as opposed to the thing that would be giving it.
The feeling state gives me the frequency, like the vibration, like what's the vibration of the feeling that I want to be creating in my life. And then the how it's going to look, I leave that up to the universe to play with, and it always is way more magnificent than I thought that I might have wanted. And it's quite fun to do it that way and be surprised.
Yeah, we were talking on the hike today about sort of that saying, "Be careful what you wish for," and down here how that's very true, because you're planting seeds here, and I see it time and time again when folks come down, and with myself, that the kind of things you call forth here can certainly be answered, but often in ways you don't expect, and maybe not in the timeline you expect either. But you're getting what you asked for. You're sort of conjuring a certain dream, and it's like, well, let's be really conscious about diving in, peeling back those layers about what is it really, though? Sort of like you're saying, the feeling that you're trying to cultivate. What is it really that, where do you want to point that ship? Mm-hmm. Because you're pointing it. Mm-hmm. and I think something about this land, it's so raw that the energy that's coming through it is amplified. And so it does amplify. It's an amplifier in a lot of ways of your lives, your dreams,
that's a great way to
your
describe
issues. It's a magnification.
How does that feel with you guys? Does that freak you out? Does it make you a little scared? Or you're like, sweet?
That's what you came for, right?
Brings up a question.
What's that?
If we're cultivating dreams, what's East Forest's dream?
Oh, where are you headed?
What's my dream?
What's your dream?
Peace of mind.
And?
Well, if I had to go with the feeling I'm trying to cultivate, it's certainly an internal process of self-love, self-acceptance that leads to feeling that I'm stepping into my fullest potential of my gifts and believing in those and really standing behind them in a place of humbleness and openness and power, instead of shirking away or having all this self-doubt and this kind of self-talk. So it's a state of mind that I want to feel that's my baseline. That's very peaceful and like not one of turbulence. Like I really, really, when I say peace of mind, I really mean that. Like I grew up feeling with a lot of negative self-talk and negativity, and that's something that I battle with my mind on a continual basis. And so the first step has been just not really identifying with it, more having that be part of a process. And I don't expect to push that away, and I see its role too and its value. But I don't know, it's a real trip, like when in some ways your spiritual practice is your career. It's slippery. It's really slippery. And then that's also how you make your money. And then you're working inside a system that is sort of like money and success, so to speak, is usually in direct correlation with, I don't know what to call it. I mean, the success would be quantified by fans or dollars or things like that. And so those are all things that really work really closely with the ego. And none of those things will help me at what I want to do and what I want to feel. But, you're playing a game that you need to play to be inside that system. So it's actually it's just like continual rechecking in process. And so retreats like this actually are super helpful for me, especially for someone who's largely a solo artist, because I'm just alone doing this stuff and most of the time traveling alone. And then even when you play shows, sometimes it's not much connection. You know what I mean? Or it's this weird superficial, everyone's just trying to be like, as we do in life, you're like, hi, and then, okay, So this is great because we can really like hang as people, as souls, and like all as just equal human beings. And I can start to see some of the reverberations of the work that I'm doing, just as a way, maybe as an excuse that it brought you here. And then the rest of it's up to the universe. And that's what I love. It's like, okay, we're all here. Great. Now we can put aside the why. Now we're here. That's wonderful. It's like we found our reasons to come. And I really have a lot of trust in who's here and that being way beyond me, and really trying to appreciate and give people the space to have the journey that they need to have. And me too.
Mm-hmm. What else gives you peace of mind?
Here or in general?
In general.
Nature. I mean, it's one of the reasons I decided to move full-time down here to southern Utah. It's not convenient, as I say to people often, but it's very fulfilling. And those really go hand in hand. I think the inconvenience and the remoteness is what gives that's why it's still so special and raw. But creativity is a big thing for me. If I'm not expressing some kind of creative process, I don't feel good. And I think that's something that makes us very unique as humans, is our potential to be creative and to create. And that, along with like sense of humor, there might be a few others. But creativity is something that's a gift that's given to all of us, and it can be expressed in so many different ways, from like cooking to, in some ways, a good conversation, to music, to art, whatever. And for myself, that expression of that muscle, even if it's 15 minutes, whether it's recorded or not, or for a project or not, I notice that it gives the day meaning. And then I try to do it at the beginning of the day. And then it's like a monkey that's off my back. And then the rest of the day is gravy. It doesn't matter what I do. All the chores that we have to do and the normal things. And if I don't do it first, it's this monkey on my back. And it often doesn't get done. And then it's this horrible self-talk about, you need to do this thing, you need to do that thing. Because I haven't expressed this special sacred sauce that is us. Right? And I've just started to realize that that's a muscle that just needs to be tweaked. And I think for a lot of people, they can do that in their own unique way. That's just my way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel fortunate that I can make that process turn into something that can be shared on certain levels, and then something about that can work in its own way with another person in its own unique way. And that's the great thing too about digital stuff, is like you kind of put it out there into the digital ocean, and then it has a life of its own forever. And I really have nothing to do with it. I love the stories I sometimes hear about that.
Anything else coming up for you guys?
Earlier today, you started to talk about how you catch, maybe it was that self-talk sooner than previously, your practice of becoming more aware of those things. Can you speak to that maybe a little bit more?
Wow. Catching the self-talk sooner. I don't know. It's sort of like a mysterious process, I think, isn't it? Because there's something going on in our unconscious, and I tend to believe there must be something. It's kind of like practicing piano scales. Like in the moment, it's like, I can't do this, but you do it. You work just through it in a really tough way, and then the next day it's oddly easier. And like, well, something's happening in my brain. And so there's some kind of method to the madness of these practices we do, whether it's yoga or meditation or going on a walk or doing some free writing or any of these rituals we've been playing around with. There's something about that actually does something to your brain that helps you rewire some of those neural pathways. And then there's also something about giving yourself over to spirit in general that helps to cultivate that witness consciousness. So I think more now, like the stuff comes up and it's still there and it's still as hot and fiery as before, but I'm able to maintain that witness that can see it at least and say, well, I can't get out of this story right now, this feeling, but I know it's a story. And do you feel, or do you guys feel, I often feel like there's a certain candle flame inside us, inside my consciousness, that is sort of like a deeper level of me. And I have that image for some reason of like this little candle. And even when things are like really bad, if I'm like in a really deep spot, I can still have that sense of that candle in there. And that's kind of the one thing that can keep me moving forward. And that's sort of like that inner soul. Ram Dass talks about the soul and says things like, you know, the soul is smiling when we're, like, for instance, grief, you're the closest to God when you're in your deepest parts of grief. And I understand that phrase to mean when we're in the deepest parts of the human experience, the fullest parts emotionally, is when we're sort of exercising the most karma on one level and so not asleep. Like sad, for instance, in Sanskrit, translating to full. So when you're really sad, you're really full of life. And that doesn't erase the pain, but it gives it a context.
One way that I see you navigating those moments and times and thoughts is you're like, what you say is like, I'm just feeling a lot of energy right now, and you name it, and then you allow yourself space to have it, and you go through it, and you're wise to not make decisions and choices while you're in it.
Don't press send on the email.
Yeah.
I'll sleep on it. Yeah.
So you're in it and you're
Not
feeling
every
it, and then you just kind of sit with it until it passes. For me, the visual that comes to mind is like you're surfing and then you crash and you're tumbling in the white water and you're just getting kind of pummeled and you haven't reached the surface yet, and eventually you come back out. So you give yourself time and you're just like, you're not drowning, but you're like fully in the turbulence of it, and then you come back out.
We were talking about those 4 directions last night, and you think about all the challenges we face as that is sort of like what life is, challenge, friction in a sense. And it could be large frictions like major life events down to small frictions like I'm hungry. And all these desires and all these things, you know, that is the grist for the mill. If we didn't have that, there'd really be no reason to be here. And I sometimes try to remember that even when I'm just like, God, I'm tired sometimes of just like brushing my teeth and like doing everything we have to do just to be alive. And, or like that we were talking about creativity. It's like, it's a drag too, you know, it's, I got a lot of that thinking from that book, The War of Art, Stephen Pressfield's book, which talks about this notion of resistance, something you face every day, and that it's just something you go to war with in a sense. Every day, you know, you're successful one morning because you did your thing, and then you go on with your day, and you're going to wake up and do it over again. And that voice will come back saying like, you can answer those emails first, or you can do this thing. And I don't know why that voice is there. It doesn't make any logical sense. but we have that sort of sense in our mind that I think it's there so that we can make those choices and we can have that free will, and our will and what we choose to do is sort of what we can be proud of. The talents and the things we're given is wonderful. We can be grateful for them, but what you do with it, your own unique gifts, what you do with it, that's something to take pride in. And sort of that energy you will yourself up each day for those moment to moment to moment to moment. And we fall off, we fall on, we fall off, we fall on.
Mm-hmm. And when you fall off, giving yourself less of a hard time about it.
Ideally. Mm-hmm. You do a much better job of that than I do. But you're someone who hardly has an inner critic.
I don't have an inner critic.
God. Oh,
it exists.
Bottle that.
It exists, people. It's out there. It's possible to not have an inner critic.
Well,
I have discernment. I have awareness.
Great. Yeah. So I can only speak from my own experience. I mean, I can't. Who knows? We all have our own unique experience of what it means to be alive and walking around.
Any other thoughts or questions? Feelings? Somebody's trying to call in with a question. I should have answered it.
They're from Oklahoma. We have a call on line 2. Yeah.
What are the feelings, Marissa, that you bring to your awareness and that you're wanting to attract?
What feelings do I try to cultivate?
Yeah.
Peace of mind, which is the same thing Trevor said.
What does that mean to you?
But for me, it's like equanimity. So acceptance is peace of mind. And I often describe in my yoga classes too, like we use in yoga lingo, bliss, the idea of bliss or ananda, and describing to my students that bliss isn't this ecstatic state of being. Bliss is a very neutral place where you're resting and you kind of feel like, like just a sigh of relief of like arriving and being held, or like I'll describe it as like the sense of like coming home after a long absence and you're just like welcomed, like a sense of place and presence. That feeling of within my own being and me in the world as I move around, having that wherever I go, and then connecting to place in that way too, and other people, and interacting with others from a very non-judgmental way, knowing that we've all got our own shit and our own stories and our own traumas, and so much that each person has so much that they've gone through that we have no idea how far they've come or what they're working with in the moment. And so giving people to a lot of grace and a lot of leeway and this feeling of just like, man, it's okay. We are all doing our best. And gratitude for sure, and the feeling of abundance, great gratitude for my life and everything that I already have, and the way that I'm supported by the world itself.
You speak it.
What does that mean?
You say it often, sometimes, just
I'm
randomly,
grateful.
or what you're grateful for. And I think there's something powerful probably about not just thinking it. It's like the different levels of power. It's thinking it, saying it, writing it.
Yeah.
Mailing a letter might be the 4th.
Yeah, I do. I mean, you and I spend obviously a lot of time together, and I do just randomly.
It's great.
Shout it out.
Yeah.
I mean, how many times a day do I tell you that I love you? Probably like 50.
Okay.
That's how he responds. All right, that again.
It's embarrassing and lovely. I'm grateful for it. But there's something to be said about, I see it, people comment about it a lot with you. They meet you and immediately they comment on like a presence, and they're sort of grateful for that, and they're appreciating a certain kind of presence. And that's something that I think all of us can give as a gift to one another, is just that full sense of attention. It's not anything directive. It's just lovely to be like, just sort of like very open with your breath and sensing like someone right in front of you. That true witness is a beautiful thing, and something that we're all so hungry for, especially in a land of social media, lack of connection. Mm-hmm. Here I am talking about it again and again and again. But I noticed that with you, and that's something I really appreciate from other people when they give it to me. And it's a micro gift that actually means so much. And it inspires, it's sort of infectious. It's like sometimes that can inspire me to be like, God, I can do that right now. And I'm going to do that next, and the next person I meet, whether it's someone I know or not.
Like listen to them and
Obviously
see them.
listen and see them, but it's really just paying attention for a second. It's like really just being fully with one thing, and it's that person, and like looking in their eyes, and there's no agenda. It's just like, full acceptance. It's the old love everyone, tell the truth. And loving everyone is harder than it sounds, but it's simple. It's simple.
And not. What else? Any other thoughts? Any other questions?
Anything else coming up and today?
So you talk about finding your special gift and expressing it in the world. How did you find your special gift?
I don't know, but just by being fortunate to be able to do things I wanted to do, and
come on, that's not a real answer.
No, but there's truth to that. Like I had a lot of privilege in the sense that like I didn't have a lot of debt coming out of college. And so I was able to I had special, like doing photography that just like took off. So I had this job that gave me like time and a little bit of extra cash where I could actually like explore these things. And that's a privilege. Like I had time to like explore music and stuff.
Well, that's the answer. You had time and you had money.
Yeah. But what I know I did myself is I definitely had like an idea of what I wanted to create, and I put in the time. And that was like, for me, it's all about like small bricks. Instead of like going crazy for a week and then burning out, it's like I'll spend an hour or two on it a day or 15 minutes. It's like little bits at a time. That's how I do everything.
And you didn't have a master plan. You weren't thinking, I'm going to become East Forest who does this thing and this is my niche.
No, and for years, it was just like a private, in the shadows, secret sound healing type thing, shamanic. And that's how it built up. And then there was a sort of a voice in my head or a calling that is like, oh, it's time to like take this to something more public. I don't know really how. I don't know what that will mean. How do you do that with something that's has no genre and is like at that point it was like 30-minute ambient songs, and there was nothing like it around, and that was a real challenge because no one understood what I was trying to do, and I really didn't. I was like, I don't know, but I'm just going to put it out there and keep doing more and keep doing more and keep doing more and just keep trying things. And I did all sorts of things that really were hard because I was also trying to figure it out for myself. So lots of different types of gigs and experiences that were a bit traumatic. Because I was trying different edges of it and trying to find my own voice, and that's something I think I still am trying to do, and we all are always refining. But for all of us, I think in tapping into whatever it is our unique gifts are, it's really being open to recognize the subtlety of them, the uniqueness of them, the diversity of them, and how it might not be exactly what you think or want. Like, perhaps your gift could be your presence in a sense, but you're activating it through certain processes. So it's not maybe about the yoga, for instance, maybe.
For me, you're speaking
I'm just as an analogy, yeah, and this may not be true. But it's like the underlying gift could come out in different ways. Mm-hmm. And I hope as we grow older, we're given opportunities to find out what those are. But I know we all have them, and I have an intuitive hit. I can't say it's true other than I know it's true, that if we can follow and get into those unique gifts, there's some kind of path for individual healing and healing collectively in our community and the planet through that. I trust that there's a certain wisdom to that in the greater design of why you are here, why we're all here, and that's not going to be some kind of spiritual woo-woo that takes you away from the world. Somehow that's going to engage you perfectly. That's going to like manifest you as the puzzle piece that you're actually meant to be. And that could be being some kind of perfect mom. Again, it's not so much about the methodology. Often I think that all flows right because you start to feel like you're in your right space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's a wonderful spot to end.
Yeah, sure. So
Thank you for that.
Yeah, I'm loving being here at the retreat. We have another couple days. And thanks for moderating.
You're welcome. Thanks for the question, you guys.
Yeah, dinner's going to be awesome. Thanks, guys. Well, there it is. Maybe you felt like you were sitting there in the great room with the sun coming in, with your eyes looking down the canyon, enjoying a cold beer after a good long hike. And, well, you were there with us in spirit, digitally at any rate. This song you're hearing in the background is called Open Ocean 3, and it is a cut that is only available on the website, eastforest.org. Hit the music tab. I believe if you go down to the singles and remixes section, it's down there. And it's from, it's either from Summit at Sea, when I played there, or it's from a set I did in Amsterdam, like at a warehouse party. Both a few years back, and both pretty wild events that would be a story for another time. And I honestly can't remember which one it's from. It says ocean, so I'm going to say Summit at Sea, but could be Amsterdam. Anyway, they're little live improvisations, some beats. I was playing, well, whatever event I was playing at. You know what? I'll tell you those stories another time. Remind me. But do please give this podcast a review. It ain't that hard, folks. We're giving this to you as a gift, so give the gift back by sending us some love. You can also send an email and I'll read it on the air if it's relevant or even slightly relevant at info@eastforest.org. And just scroll down there and hit the old 5 stars, because that's what we do, folks. We spread the digital love around. There's a lot of content out there, but we don't just have to consume, we give back. Give a digital hug. That's all it is. And I hope to see you on the road. Thank you, as always, for listening. It's wonderful to have the community. Man, I'm feeling charged up from like seeing everybody at the retreat in person. There are a few people there who were like, oh, I listen to the podcast all the time. And I was like, seriously? That's so rad. So it's nice to see things actually coming together and looking in the eyes of real people instead of microphones and computer screens and airports and all that kind of jazz. All right, folks, you keep walking your walk. Don't take any shit, but if you do, you know what to do. You do it with grace.